Hello, hello, can you hear me? I think we have to wait for some more time so that some other participants can join. Aditya, are you there? Aditya, have you joined? Can you hear me all? Okay, Aditya, you heard some questions. You asked me some questions, right? Basically, you wanted to know that you want to know more about the career in international relations. You wanted to know about that. I just would like to mention that there are lots of career opportunities in international relations, but for that you have to do masters in international relations and also PhD in international relations from a good university in India or from outside. When you think of the career, the best option is you can join Indian Foreign Service, but for that you have to write UPSC Civil Services examination with a preference for IFS Indian Foreign Service, right? So you know about that. So there is a whole lot of examination for UPSC. You have to qualify prelims, mains, then interview, and then if you are selected, so you can choose a career in Indian Foreign Service. The second you can think of, the career option you can think is teaching and research, right? For that you have to do PhD, qualify NET, SET at the state level. Then you have to publish also something in the area of your research, and then you can apply for these teaching and research jobs. And when I'm talking of research jobs, I'm basically talking of not just the research organizations, but there are also lots of think tanks, right, where you can join as a research consultant or research officer, like the IDSA Institute for Defense Studies and Analysis. Then there are organizations like Observer Research Foundation, CPR Center for Policy Research, and there are also organizations like maritime organizations, a Center for Air Power Studies, Center for land warfare studies. So there are so many think tanks located mainly in Delhi, but there are also some think tanks in cities like Mumbai, like Kolkata. So you can find a lot of think tanks in India nowadays, and the area of think tanks and the size and number of think tanks are also increasing. So you can think of a career in teaching and research in case you are interested in these areas. So there are lots of scopes. We have about more than 1,000 universities and also 40,000 colleges where you can apply for assistant professorship. But for that, as I said, you need to have a PhD, and you have to qualify the NET and get the NET and state level eligibility test examination, right? So third, you can think of international civil service in organizations like the United Nations. There are six organs of the United Nations. Besides that, there are more than 20 specialized agencies of the United Nations, like the WHO and many other specialized agencies who regularly, advertise for, career in those international organizations and specialized agencies. Beside the United Nations, there are also organizations like IMF, World Bank, regional organizations. So you can think of a career in international and regional organizations, but for that you have to qualify the international civil service examination conducted by the United Nations Secretariat, right? And also sometimes there are separate advertisement by the specialized agencies of the UN. In addition to that, in case you want to pursue a career in journalism, sometimes for reporting, for writing feature articles, or for covering international news, so you can join also both print and electronic media, and that I think is a good career option. So I think if you think of career in international relations, you can also think of some business research organizations like McKinsey and many other consultancy firms. Nowadays Adani is also establishing a think tank. You can think of that. Observer Research Foundation, that is the think tank established by the Reliance Industries. So there are lots of business consultancy firms where you can also think of working. And if you have a specialization on international relations, that would definitely help you, right? So these are the career options you can think of after your masters, or if you do PhD, that will also pave the way for great career in teaching and research, right? There are some other questions I received, particularly from 2 3 participants. One is by Ananya Dhar, right? Ananya, are you there? Are you there in the live session? Okay. Ananya has asked 3 4 questions. She wanted to know about, she wanted to know some good books on international relations. If you want to know more about international relations theories, there is a good book by Jackson and Sorensen, right? So that book is a very good one for, particularly for international relations theories. So you can think of Jackson and Sorensen. So that's a good book. The second, if you want to know about some concepts in international relations or some international issues in international relations, there are some good books like Goldstein. That is one book you can think of. Then Bailey's, you can think of Bailey's and Bailey's. So that is also a good book on international relations. If you want Indian authors, Siddharth Malarapu and B.S. Chimney, they have written a good book on international relations. You can think of, there's a Turkish scholar called Tayyar Ari, right? So you can think of reading those books. These are very basic books and the language is also very simple. So if you want to know more about that, you can also write to me. I will send some good books reference, particularly which I have consulted for our SWAYAM course on international relations. So these are the books you can consult. I think their language is very easy and you can easily understand. So that is all about your question on good books on international relations. You also wanted to know some other universities where you can do your pursue your masters in international relations studies. Besides JNU and Pondicherry University, you also talked about Jadavpur University. So in addition to those universities which you have mentioned in your question, you can think about the universities like Ashoka University, where that is a private university, but that one is a good university, of course. Then you have Shivnagar University, right? So you can think of Shivnagar University. That is also a very good university, and they have a separate department on international relations. Then you can think of some newly established central university like Gujarat Central University, or you can think of Jharkhand Central University. There are also some, they are new universities, of course, but they have a separate school on international studies. So you can think of those institutions for your masters. But I'm sure if you seriously, read some of the books which I suggested, and also regularly watch the videos, because that has already given a very comprehensive account of international relations. So that would definitely help you to get admission in JNU, or maybe in South Asian University, which you have already mentioned, right? You also wanted to know whether there is any coaching institute you should join for getting admission in masters. I would not suggest that, because teaching is different, coaching is different, right? And there are no coaching institute that specially caters to the needs of qualifying entrance in masters in international relations. So basically, I would suggest that just to be focused on textbooks and the SWAYAM course that I try to cover mostly, all the important issues. If you regularly listen to those videos and study those textbooks which I have suggested, then that will definitely help you to get admission in some of the universities which you suggested and which I also suggested. Right. So Ananya, you have any other question? I think I covered your questions. You can write in the chat box if you don't want to ask me anything directly. So you can just write it that in the chat box. If you have any other questions, I think you raised 3 questions. I am I try to answer all those three questions. Then we have one learner called Dr. Gulam Murtaza, right? Dr. Gulam Murtaza. Uh, Dr. Murtaza has asked three questions about the theories of international relations. As I told you in the lectures, there are two types of theories. We generally categorize all the theories of international relations into main categories. One is called the established theories, the other is called the alternative theories, or while the established theories are also called the mainstream theories. So these theories are called the alternative theories in international relations, right? And when we talk of alternative theories, we basically talk about the theoretical development that has taken place in the post Second World War period. Particularly, we have critical theory, we have constructivism, we have so many other theories, and also there are some sub varieties of mainstream theories like subaltern realism. So there are so many theories that originated in the post Second World War period, which we call as mainstream theories, and there are some theories which developed after the Cold War that we call as alternative theories, right? So Dr. Murtaza wanted to know that which mainstream theories are relevant in 21st century. I would suggest that if you look at all the theories, both mainstream and alternative theories, three main theories I think are really important. One is the realist theory, the second is the liberal theory, and third is the constructivism. That we can say as a purely theory. But again, it depends on you whether you consider it as a theory or an approach. Why I'm saying these three theories? Because realism talks about power, realism talks about competition, realism talks about survival, self-help. So as you asked in your second question about the Israel-Palestine issue or Ukraine-Russia war, you yourself know that nowadays we are talking of the question of survival, the question of state competition, the question of balance of power, right? Why on the one hand there is Russia, and China is also supporting Russia. India indirectly, if not militarily supporting Russia, but indirectly it also gets a lot of imports from Russia, and that in a way has you know given a kind of oxygen to its economy, right? So so this type of state help, self help, survival, statism, competition, military build off, these are all important issues in the context of Israel and Palestine, or in the context of Russia and Ukraine, right? So if you think of liberalism, you will also find, on the one hand we are talking of the role of international organizations, role of international law, the role of some political leaders, like India is trying to have a mediatory role between Russia and the Ukraine, because recently the Prime Minister of India had visited both Ukraine and Russia. So there is a demand that India should play a constructive role in bringing these two countries to the negotiating table. So liberal theory is also relevant in this context, because we are talking of peace, we are talking of cooperation, we are talking of negotiation, we are talking of the role of international law, international organization. So in a way, liberal theory is also relevant to understand these two main conflicts, or these two main ongoing conflicts, right? Constructivism, why I talked about the relevance of constructivism, because constructivism is talking of the role of identity, the role of interaction, the role of consciousness. So these all important issues, right? When there was the Ukraine war, Ukraine appealed all other countries to support it, because it considered it is one of the countries that is democracy, and or it's a democratic country, and Russia particularly is not a democratic country. So it expected that all democratic countries should support Ukraine, because so that was the identity of Ukraine in requesting other countries, or particularly the democratic countries, to support it against the non-democratic Russia. you know when the Russia Ukraine war started, all the countries of the West, particularly the USA and European Union, they also expected India to boycott Russia, and support the Western countries in their efforts to help Ukraine, because India is the world's largest democratic country. So being a fellow democratic country, and it should support the Ukraine. So in a way, liberal theory and constructivism and also realism, they are all important to explain this conflict. But I would not say that all the each or only say a single theory or only one theory can explain the developments undergoing in those two troubled regions. Each theory in some part can help us to understand the situation, right? So if you think of realism, realism can help us to understand the role of NATO, the role of the Western countries, the role of balance of power, the role of arms, support to Ukraine. So to some extent, Russia Ukraine conflict can be understood from realist perspective. So if you look at liberal theory, as I said, international law, international organizations, role of other countries, role of other leaders, in solving the problem can also be explained from the real, liberal perspective. Similarly, constructivism talks about identity. So each theory to some extent can help us to understand the situation, but no one theory can help us to understand the situation, from 100% or you can say from the total perspective or comprehensive perspective. So you need each theory partially helps us to understand the situation. So no theory can 100% help us to understand the situation in totality. So partially, yes, these theories combinedly together can help us or can give us a better perspective on these disputes or on these problems. So third question, you said theories like realism, neorealism are, they are glorifying the kind of competition, and they are in a way responsible for the depleting of the natural resources from the world. To some extent, I would say yes, I agree with you that some of the theories like realism, they talk about state power, they talk about self-help, they talk about maximizing the state power. And when you think of maximizing the state power, it means there is no limitation on you to acquire resources, and you will not say, okay, this is enough for our state power. So there is no limit for acquiring the state power. If you need petroleum resources, if you need oil resources, if you need any resource that can help you to increase your power, so you can go to the extent of war. So in a way, realism, I would suggest, better explain this kind of situation, that you need resources for increasing your state power. You can depend on self help, you can go for war in your self defense. So these kind of ideas that in a way help you to understand the depleting resources from the world. And yes, partially this is true, but if you look at the critical theory, you will also understand that critical theory talks about the kind of uh, narrative we have created, that we have to live in a lavish life. We have to so there is no limit to our comfort, there is no limit to our happiness. And when you prioritize your happiness, when you want to conquer the nature, when you want to use the technology to achieve the kind of state power the realists are talking of, so that in a way will help you to understand the kind of the devastation we have caused to the nature, and how that has led to the depleting of precious natural resources. And if you look at the current problems like climate change, environmental problems, or there are so many other issues that affect the very survival of the planet, the survival of the globe. In a way, those theories help us, particularly uh, Marxism, and especially its a new variety called critical theory, would help us to understand the situation better. Because Marxist theory, particularly the Frankfurt School of International Relations, which we cover in the critical theory, they talk about the human beings quest to conquer the nature, right? You think that if there is climate change, if there is global warming, you can use AC to contain global warming. But so in a way you are contributing again to global warming by using more and more ACs, because ACs, they cause this carbon dioxide. right? And carbon dioxide are responsible for global warming, or it also adds to global warming. So the point is, to go to your office, to go to the workplace, you use very luxurious cars. So they are also responsible for pollution. So then the question is, those who can afford AC, those who can afford electricity bill, they are in a way living a comfortable life by dealing with climate change, but indirectly they are also causing more and more climate change, and they are also responsible for increasing the global temperature. But they again think of the poor people. So even if they are not responsible for climate change, but they are the sufferers, they are facing the music of global warming, right? So you don't have the capability to afford a inflated electricity bill, or you can afford AC. So even if you are not responsible for global warming, you are facing the consequences. So here you have two types of people: those who are responsible for climate change and global warming, and they have the tools, they have the mechanisms. Or those countries, you can say global north and global south. Those countries belonging to global north, they always accuse the countries belonging to the global south as responsible for climate change, whereas the countries belonging to global south, they accuse the countries of global north as responsible for climate change, because they are the first who started industrialization. They are the first to go for overconsumption. They are the first who develop technologies to master the nature. So so because of this reason, the countries of global south, they think that the countries of global north are responsible for climate change. But the western countries, they think that the poor countries, they still use you know s- uh, you know polluted kind of uh, uh, things, for burning coal, burning wood, and so many other things. There are some people who will not use CNG. Those who are some people who will not use LPG. So sometimes you don't cook because you don't have the money to afford the LPG cylinder. So that in a way is responsible for this kind of problem. So those who think of this, we can categorize them as north and south. And also some of the theories that help us to understand the situation better. As I said, the Frankfurt School, the critical theory, the realist theory, they are in a way responsible. So the realist theory is responsible for the depletion of resources, and the critical theory is responsible for analyzing this kind of exploitation. You have this dependency theory. You have Marxist theory, particularly the world system theory. These are the theories that help us to understand the situation in a much more better way. So I think I covered your question. I also discussed the question by Aditya Sahu. Uh, then Ananya, I think I answered your question. If there are other questions, you can let me know. Either you directly interact with me, or write that in the chat box so that I can answer those questions. Anyway, if if you have any problem about the course, or if there are some problems with some lectures, or if you have any issue on the paper Introduction to International Relations, you can share that with me, because the purpose of this live session is to clear your doubt related to the paper. And in case you have any issue, in case you face any problem, so I can suggest you. So you can just uh, ask me either in the chat box, or you can directly pose me a question, right? So it is up to you. Aditya, you have asked another question about the upper caste and lower caste, right? And you try to link those two issues through the critical race theory, right? Again, no, I would say that this race theory is very popular in America. and some of the Indian scholars, they are trying to explain the Indian situation by not by using the race, rather they are talking of upper caste and lower caste. Yes, I would suggest that uh, these are also explanations, not on the basis of race, rather the Dalits, the upper caste, so this kind of issues are raised by some subaltern scholars, and yes, that can also help you to understand the situation in a different perspective, or in a you can say this is an alternative perspective, right? So if the mainstream perspective is about global south and global north, this can be a subaltern perspective or an alternative perspective that can help you to explain the situation in a much more better way. Right? So that will definitely help you. But I would suggest that you read some literature by the subaltern scholars, right? So that would give you a better idea of what is going on in India, and how the upper caste and Dalit, they in a way, you know, accuse each other for this kind of problems. The upper caste thinks in the same way other countries of the global north, and the subaltern people or the Dalit, they also think in the same way as global south. So the point is, it's not a question of global south or global north. It's a question of understanding each other's perspective. So I would suggest that you better focus on the writings of these subaltern writers like Gopal Guru, right? So there are some Kancha Ilaya. So these are the people who have done some work on subaltern literature. So that will help you to better understand the situation, right? Yeah, somebody has asked about the question that whether we will in future what kind of advanced course we are going to introduce in the SWAYAM portal. In the future, I plan to have a course on the advanced international relations theories. Right. So you just now what you get in the SWAYAM course on international relation is a summary of some of the theories, mainstream theories and alternative theories. But an extensive understanding of these theories is needed, and for that I in fact wish to have a new course on international relations, that is the advanced theories of international relations. I personally think that if you are strong in theory, nobody can beat you, nobody can you know compete against you, because if you are strong in the theory, you can explain the contemporary issues, you can do a good research, you can write a good research piece. So my particular preference is that you should be very strong in theory, and if you are strong in IR theory, you can understand so many things, and in fact so many issues would become very easy for you to understand, right? So if you want to specialize in international relations, if you want to have a career in international relations, definitely you should look at the theories of international relations, which to some extent I try to explain in that paper. But I would suggest that in future I am going to introduce another paper in international relations that is called Advanced International Theories, where we are going to explore all the theories, particularly the mainstream theories and the critical theories, individually and from a very comprehensive perspective, right? So that I would suggest that uh, we will have that in the future, right? In addition to all these questions, in case you have any doubt, any problem, any issue, you can also directly ask to me, or I would be rather happy to answer your queries and questions. Yes, anybody else? Any other question, any other issue which you want to highlight about the paper, about the topic, about the theories, about the concepts, right? In fact, I introduce a very special lecture on the global international relations discourse, right? Why there are limitations on international relations discipline, and why should the discipline become a global discipline, right? So global higher discipline, so that's a new question. I think you must have enjoyed all those issues which I raised at the theoretical level, at the conceptual level, methodological level, and also the idea level. So right, so there are some new issues which I try to cover, like the global IR discipline quest of international relations, and also we try to discuss systematically the critical theories and the mainstream theories. Some of the issues like refugees, migration, the nuclear proliferation, terrorism, globalization. No, so these issues also we have covered. I think you have enjoyed all those lectures. Now we are running the 8 week course, and now in near future we are going to complete all the lectures. So that would be better if you just keep posting your queries. We have created a Telegram group where you can directly interact with me. You can also pose your questions in the SWAYAM portal itself by writing email to us. I have a research team, and we will definitely help you to answer your queries. Right. So I know it's not a question of monologue that I should talk. You should listen and just write some MCQs and get your certificate. That is not the purpose of the course. The purpose is we should always maintain a kind of dialogue between the mentor and dialogue between the learners, right? So you raise your questions. There are different platforms. There are different, you know, issues which you can raise either through Telegram, either through, you know, SWAYAM portal directly. You can post those questions, or you can also write me emails. Right? There is also an option in the SWAYAM portal that you can directly, write emails to us, and we can try to our best to answer those questions as early as possible, right? I always prefer to immediately clear your doubt or write the the return mail, right? So that I would suggest that we will do that. One student has asked how students can interact you for subject matter doubts. I said there is a Telegram group. There are some 60 or 65 students who have joined that. I'm really upset that we have some 900 students. Why only few students are asking questions? Why only few students have joined this Telegram group? Why not more students, right? As I said, the purpose is not just to record some lectures. You just listen that and just attend the MCQ, get your certificate. That is not the purpose. The purpose is we should always remain in the dialogue mode. If you have any doubt, if you have any question, if you see any current events, there are global news, there are national events. If you want to relate those events to those issues and theories which we are discussing, so that would definitely help you to have a better depth, to have a better understanding on international relations, right? So I would suggest that, if you have any doubt, please write to me through email, write through SWAYAM portal directly. You can post those questions to the Telegram group which you have joined. If you have not joined, we will again send that link, right? So you join in that Telegram group. If there is any doubt, there is any problem, we will address those questions as early as possible. But as I said, I don't like personally to take too much time for responding to your queries. So please write your queries, your doubts. You can also write when you look at the video, when you listen to those videos. There are also comment options. You can also write comments, right? You can directly mail me. You can join through telegram, and you can just directly ask me some questions, no problem. Rather, I would be happy to answer those questions. Someone is asking for no your email id, password, personal email ID. Listen, there are three forums. I already told you. Telegram is one, and they are directly responding. Some of the students asked me something, I responded them directly. So there are, Telegram group we have created for you. Then there is, as I said, SWAYAM portal. Then you can write comments. I look at those comments. I take your comments in fact seriously. So I would suggest that these are the you know uh, platforms. These are the forums where when I'm directly available to you, there is no need for personal email. Uh, I would rather suggest whatever is your issue, whatever is your doubt, whatever your problem, can directly share with share those issues with me, and through these three platforms, and I would be more than happy to answer your queries. What is the progress of the field of uh, de-dollarization? Huh? Somebody has asked about some question on de-dollarization. Dollar is the premier international currency. Uh, if there is some problem in American market, our economy is deeply integrated with American economy. So if there is problem in New York Stock Exchange, we feel the pain in Bombay Stock Exchange or National Stock Exchange, right? So dollar is now the main currency, although China is trying to have its own currency, and India is also trying to have its own currency, and the BRIC group, they are also trying to use the each other's currency, particularly the Chinese currency or the Indian currency. Now, now the progress, I would not suggest, there is some progress, but I would not say that they have replace dollar as the international currency, or the international uh, exchange. So dollar has a primary role, and most of the countries, even the European Union, even if there is euro, so it has not replaced dollar. Right, the European country, they also use dollar even if there is euro. So China, India, they are trying. Some of the BRIC countries, they are trying, but no, they are not very successful, because you can uh, use your own currency, but it will take a long time to replace dollar, right? It's not a question of 5 years, 10 years, maybe next 50 years. You can think that China may be successful in replacing the US dollar if it becomes the number one economy. Now it is the number two economy, right? India is fifth largest economy. Maybe in 1 year or 2 year, it may replace Germany and Japan as the third largest economy. But America, after 300 years of struggle, uh, you know, they have taken almost 100 years for social development, 100 years for political development, 100 years for economic development, right? So if the dollar is there, it is because of the US primacy in the international relations. Either it is the sole surviving superpower, or it is world's largest economy, or you can say it is the preeminent country, heading the post World War international system, like the United Nations, the liberal international economic order. So whatever you say, so it's very difficult to replace China. It's very difficult to replace USA, but there is some attempt by, as I said, by India and uh, China and other big countries, but it will take some time. We can't now at present, at least we can say that in 5 years or 10 years they will replace, because it's not easy to replace United States. As I said, it has a long history, right? So it may be possible that maybe in the next 100 years, or maybe in the next 200 years, that may be possible. Maybe next 50 years you can think of something, but not, at least in the short term, it's not possible. This is my opinion, right? Because America, recently 2 or 3 days back, I read that America has retaliated those countries who are trying to replace American US dollar, right? So America will not sit silently that okay, let others challenge the American economy or challenge the US dollar. They will do, definitely they will do better to retain their hegemony, to retain dollar as the international currency of exchange, right? So they will do their best. We will do their best. We will do our best. Chinese will do their best. So everybody will do, because everybody is concerned about themselves. But the problem is, it takes long time to achieve something like this. What you asked for. Another question is, the Petro Yuan deal by Saudi Arabia and implications on it, on the world, and especially on India. Right nowadays, Saudi Arabia and Iran, they had a long history of hostility against each other, and this has been magnified by the recent, issues uh, you know recently the Chinese, they have played a very important role in bringing these two countries, particularly the Saudi Arabians and Irans. They have different perspective on the Gulf, and basically the problem between these countries is over the leadership of the Muslim world, right? Turkey thinks that it had a legacy of Ottoman Empire, so it should be the right kind of leader for the Muslim world. Saudi Arabia thinks that uh, because it is the custodian of two mosques, so it has a preeminent position in the Muslim world. uh, and same in the case of Iran, because of its ancient civilization. So there are some legacy issues, particularly the dispute between Saudi Arabia and Iran, was on the basis of on the issue of leadership of the Muslim world, and China has tried to recently bring these two countries, and also it is giving some kind of assistance to both Iran and Saudi Arabia, and although the Chinese, they are trying to live their level best to bring this kind of situation, but the ongoing crisis in the Gulf, particularly between the Hamas and Israel, that has again created a kind of problem. And Chinese, even if they have good terms with Russia, they have not been able to play any kind of mediator role in bringing Ukraine and Russia, although they claim that they are trying to their level best. So, it's not very easy to replace, as I said, the US dollar. Even if they are trying to have their own currency, they are giving a kind of benefits to some countries by for using their currency. No, it's not very easy to replace the US dollar. As I said, USA, it has a major stake in the IMF. It has a major stake in the World Bank. It is the country which has led this post reconstruction efforts in the post Second World War period. So it is technologically a very superior country. So it's very difficult for the Chinese or maybe for Indians to replace the United States. But as I said, if these countries grow in the way they are growing at present for the next 50 years, the situation may be different, right? So yes, I think I answered your question. In case you have any other question, you can ask me. But I would be happy if you just give your feedback in that feedback form. Are you filing those feedback forms? How is the lecture? What is your expectation? How can we better improve that paper? So I think that would be really helpful. So if you are there are feedback forms for every week. So I would suggest that you please fill up those feedback forms, and we take your feedback seriously, right? So please do that. So in case you have any other question, I would be happy to answer those questions. Anyone? Aditya, you asked, can we sometimes have a live session? Something you are talking of live session? Yeah, I think if you need some live session, we can have that. I would be rather happy to have more and more live sessions. But I would be happy if you directly interact with me, not just write in the chat box, right? So you directly interact with me. If this is the live session, it is for you. So instead of writing your questions in the chat box, I would be happy that if you directly ask me questions like the online class, that would be much better. Yes, there is some other question. I think I'm getting some more questions. Our mics are disabled. I think, yeah, I think I have to talk to the SWAYAM people, because maybe they would like you to ask questions in the chat box or in the writing in the Google form. Okay, I would talk to the SWAYAM people about that. So next time, maybe when there is a lively discussion, or if there is a live session on this, if you are interested, I can plan more. But I would suggest that we can have. It would be better if you just know if we have direct question, not this writing in the chat box or something like that. Somebody has asked a question on the objectives of India's foreign policy. Yes, what exactly you want objectives of India? I think I discussed that. Uh, no, we have not discussed that because we have not specifically dealt with India's foreign policy. Okay, there was a question, what are the objectives of India's foreign policy? The options are like, follow Panchashil policy, join military alliances, uh, engage in arms race, like this. The answer is to follow Panchashil policy. Maybe there are some problems when the question was uploaded, but if you have ticked for this Panchashil policy, but still you got zero, I promise you that you will be given marks as per the guidelines, and you apply for re-evaluation. I would suggest you apply for re-evaluation. That is the way you can if there are also problems in other questions, you can apply for evaluation, because we are free to uh, help you, because if you have written the right answer, you should get the right mark. So uh, definitely that is there. So other objectives, I would suggest that there were some objectives like uh, yes, sir is the bill trapping of. Okay, you may ask the attendees to raise their hands, and whenever raise a hand, the panelists may unmute their mics. Okay, so yeah, yeah, this can be done. If you can just raise your hands if you have any questions, so we can unmute. If somebody has to ask any question, please raise your hand, so we will selectively unmute yourself, right, so that you can ask those questions. Anybody who wants to raise the hand? Aditya, yeah, just unmute Aditya. Aditya, can you speak something?
Sir, hello. Am I audible?
No, just please be louder.
Hello.
Yes, yes, I can hear you. Aditya,
Yes.
yes.
Sir, how can we implement the Act East policy in a more comprehensive way
Yeah,
in our neighbor?
yeah. Okay, I got your question. A comprehensive way means what exactly? What is your expectation? Comprehensive way. What kind of expectation you have when you raise this question? India is always doing better. Earlier it followed look east policy, now it is following act east policy, and in a way we are trying to have our Indo-Pacific policy combined with Act East policy, right? So earlier we bifurcated. Okay, this is Act East policy and this is Indo-Pacific policy. Nowadays we are giving priority to the Southeast Asian countries, particularly the ASEAN countries, in our Indo-Pacific strategy, right? So I think when we are talking of Indo-Pacific, strategy, we are combining the Indian Ocean countries along with the Pacific Ocean countries. We are talking of Quad. We are talking of ASEAN. So I think in a way they are connected with each other, right? And if you look at India's Indo-Pacific strategy, the priority India always gives in that strategy is to the Asian countries. ASEAN countries, particularly these countries like Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, all these countries who are the members of ASEAN. So, in a way, I would suggest that this separation of the different kinds of policies, Act East policy, Indo-Pacific policy. So these are now they have become more comprehensive, and one policy is dependent on the other, and this policy is evident when we are talking that the Indo-Pacific policy basically favors a primary role or preeminent role to the ASEAN countries, right? So that is in my opinion, that is a kind of comprehensive policy. And nowadays, you can't separate this region, that region. Say something is Central Asia, something is South Asia, something is West Asia. So nowadays, gone are those days when you can have a rigid boundary between different regions. Rather, if there is, war in Europe, or if there is Russia-Ukraine war, we are feeling the impact. So you can't say, okay, this is Central Asia, this is Far East, this is Near East, this is Southeast Asia. So that kind of rigid geographical boundaries that are not there now, because we have seen in the time of COVID that COVID has reduced the kind of artificial boundaries we earlier maintained, and in fact in the post-war Cold War period, nobody is talking of this kind of different region, distinct regions or separate regions. Rather, we are trying to combine. In fact, we are talking of nowadays we are talking of planetary things, global things, or in fact, we have changed the nomenclature of international relations as global politics, world politics, right? So, in a way, we are becoming more and more comprehensive in understanding and focusing our priorities to different regions of the world. And what you said, when we are talking of comprehensiveness, the best example is India gives priority to the ASEAN countries when thinking of the broader Indo-Pacific region.
Sir, can individual states play their role in tying up the relationships? Like, can Odisha play the role for Asian countries?
Definitely, not exactly I would say Odisha, but the northeastern countries, they have become the gateway to India's Arctic policy. Japan is investing a lot in the northeastern states. Myanmar, Bangladesh, India's northeastern states, they can be major beneficiaries of this kind of policy. If you have a if you go to Bangkok, just take a train from India's northeast, or directly you can, if you directly go to Bangkok through a train, or if you directly go to Bangladesh to a train, or Myanmar to a through a train. So that is really interesting that nowadays, if all the regions, all the border regions, if they're connected through trade, through connectivity diplomacy, that's really good. If you look at the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, that is exactly doing that. They are connecting Pakistan, they're connecting other countries with the mainland China. So over the years, you can directly go from Beijing to Europe, or maybe Paris or London. So that is now the strategy. More and more people are now giving more importance to economic issues, and economic issues will be magnified, or they will be really benefited if there is connectivity, there is better road, there is better connectivity, and if you import the resources, if you export the goods, things are going to be like that. That is the reason why India is establishing more and more ports, more and more airports, better roads, better expressways, corridors, industrial corridors. Now see the priority of the Indian government. That would definitely help. Northeastern states getting connected with Southeast Asian nations, or maybe if the situation with Pakistan improves, Punjab, Kashmir, Gujarat, they would be instrumental in you know. In exporting goods to other countries, particularly you think of India, Middle Eastern countries, and Europe getting connected, and you must have heard about that when the G20 summit was held in Delhi, right? So this kind of corridor, this kind of mega corridor projects, connectivity diplomacy, or Asia Africa corridor, the India getting connected, or border states of India getting connected with the Southeast Asian countries, these are all interesting ideas. This BIMSTEC is particularly interested for that kind of things. BIMSTEC. Yes, any other participant to raise some questions? If you want to ask any question, we will unmute so that you can directly ask me some questions. You wanted to have some suggestion for improving the lecture? Anyone who has any suggestion? How you find the paper? What you exactly want? If you want something better than what we have covered. Yes, sir. Is it possible to share some PDF study material? Yes, we will give that shortly. We are working on the project, and whatever lectures you listen, uh, we have already converted those speech into text, and shortly you will get those material, study material of all the lectures. 25 we have prepared, another 35 we would give to all the learners, so that's not a problem. We are working on that, and maybe in a week or two you will get all the study material. Unmuted. Yeah, Tanwar, yes, Tanwar, you want to ask something?
Yes, I want to ask, sir, PDF material so that we can prepare for the exam when it is going to come. Right now, we see the video, and it is difficult to make notes when you're seeing the video. Is it possible to get some PDF material of all the classes slightly early, sir?
Early means, it will take another. I can suggest that whatever transcription we have done, we can immediately share that. Suppose 10 lectures we have already done the transcription, right?
Okay.
Converted speech into text. So I would suggest the SWAYAM team to share those already transcripted, text with PDF file to all the participants. That can be done.
True, sir, because some of the other SWAM portal people, they share the PDF material. So,
I
you
would
can
I would
receive.
suggest to do that by Monday, right?
That will be
That
nice, sir. That SWAM, can you respond, SWAM rep, please?
okay. I would request them to share that as early as possible, but maximum by Monday.
And sir, some advice regarding how to prepare for the exam, sir, the CBT based exam.
If you, I think if you, the no, you really find anything difficult to understand?
And it's a quiz. When we attempt, it is okay. Like I've been getting marks between 70 to 80%. So will that
Okay.
be sufficient, or we need to study more than
I
that, sir?
think if you carefully listen the lectures and read the transcripts, I think that is better. In addition to that, if you want, you can study some of the books I suggested, maybe by Goldstein, maybe by Belich, maybe Jackson Sorensen. It is up to you. But I would suggest, if you carefully listen the lectures and study the PDF material which we will share, that is enough for you. Not
Okay.
just for this paper, that is enough for writing any competitive exam, maybe for JNU, maybe for Jadavpur. It's not a problem at all.
Okay. Okay. So Monday, then we'll wait for the
Yeah,
material. Okay.
maximum Monday. I would request them today. I will send one email to them that
Okay.
whatever PDF files we have already prepared, so they would give the link so that you can download those PDF files.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? If you want, you just raise your hand so that we will unmute you and you will be in a position to ask me directly. If you don't have any question, we will stop here. Right? I don't think you have any question. Should we stop here? Last time, anybody who has some questions or who want to ask me some questions? Okay, I think we have already covered so many things. Thank you very much for your, for joining the live session. And as you suggested, we will try to our level best to give you the study material as early as possible. And in case you feel the need for another live session, you can suggest that, and we will try to conduct another live session before you write the final examination, right? But the final exam would be done through computer mode only, CBT mode. So and that will be done through MCQ questions. You are not required to write any subjective questions or long type questions. Rather, you would write the MCQ type questions through the CBT mode, right? So thank you very much. All the best. So any other question? Okay, thank you very much. So I stop here, and I expect that you if you have any other question, you can write. We can have another live session if you are really interested. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.